Welcome to Once Upon a Coin, documenting the ongoing history of blockchain and cryptocurrency. And as always, I'm your storyteller, Jason Cassidy. Today's story is about the oldest and longest standing source of news in the world for Bitcoin and blockchain, having grown up alongside the industry over the years. It's put out some iconic pieces and has a founder whose legacy may actually supersede the publication itself. Its origins predate Coindesk and Cointelegraph by several years, making it truly the OG of cryptocurrency media. And perhaps the craziest part of all of this is, the publication is still going strong to this very day. This is the story of Bitcoin Magazine.
Sun cast a shadow, a digital line is coming over the mountain and over your mind. Go down to your Bitcoin, hang on for the ride. We're moving into the future, one block at a time. We're moving into the future, one block at a time.
We look at a kaleidoscope of various topics on the show, and most of them, be it a company, technology, person, or event, all sprung up well after my personal involvement in the industry back in 2012. This is one of those episodes where the subject was already established by the time I arrived, which is pretty rare. So it's these episodes that hold more intrigue for me, as I'm often learning just as much about the story as you are. And with all the crypto history I've managed to ram into this noggin of mine, that's pretty damn cool if you ask me. So with that said, it's now time to officially begin our tale. Bitcoin Magazine was founded all the way back in 2011, which is literally a lifetime ago when translated into crypto years. The two men behind the idea were Mihai Alisie and Vitalik Buterin. Now, you are forgiven if you've heard about Vitalik before, but have no idea about Mihai. Vitalik is the best known of all the Ethereum co-founders, essentially becoming its central figurehead over the years. However, you may be surprised to learn that Mihai is also a co-founder of Ethereum. And there is a very spicy story behind the relationship between the co-founders. But as they say, that's another story for another day. In 2011, Vitalik found himself mesmerized by Bitcoin and quickly decided he wanted to start acquiring some for himself. Given he was only 17 years old at the time, the options available to him for doing work for Bitcoin were pretty limited. But as fate would have it, he found exactly what he was looking for. A website called Bitcoin Weekly was looking for writers, and Vitalik was more than up for the challenge. The owner of the publication offered 5 Bitcoin, valued at around $3.50 US at the time, to anyone who could write a quality article about Bitcoin for him. And with this seemingly trivial arrangement, history was made. He continued to write for the site until its eventual shutdown due to lack of revenue later that year. But someone out there had caught wind of Vitalik's writings and was impressed. Impressed enough to reach out and strike up a friendship over their shared interests. And that person was Mihai. In September of 2011, the two decided to launch their own Bitcoin publication in which Vitalik would be featured as the head writer. And that publication ended up being called, you guessed it, Bitcoin Magazine. For context, this was just a side hustle for Vitalik at the time, as he had just started attending the University of Waterloo, literally right across the street from me at BlackBerry headquarters. The two worked together for the rest of the year and into early 2012, getting everything ready for the inaugural release. And on May 1st, 2012, the very first edition of Bitcoin Magazine was published online, with physical copies being mailed out to eager buyers just weeks later. Issue number 1 of Bitcoin Magazine is obviously very special, but the rare amount of physical copies is more than just special, they're bona fide collector's items. And when the sale of a physical copy does happen, it's known to fetch a pretty penny for the savvy collector. The duo continued to put out monthly issues for the rest of 2012 and into 2013, with the Bitcoin community embracing them with open arms. There was virtually no competition for quality crypto news. And with crypto being just about Bitcoin back then, the focus was narrow yet well-defined. Interestingly enough, the early days of Bitcoin Magazine may have looked a lot different, if not for something as arcane as the convoluted process of obtaining a US visa. If I've got you slightly confused here, then let me explain. In 2013, Vitalik approached Jed McCaleb, the original owner of Mt. Gox and the founder of Ripple, which was operating out of the US. Vitalik applied for an internship there and was accepted, but before he could pack his bags, he got some bad news. Ripple was unable to secure a work visa for Vitalik given that the company had only existed for 9 months at the time. The rule when it came to issuing US work visas for a company was that it had to be in operation for at least 1 full year. No soup for you, Vitalik. Of course, this meant that Vitalik would be staying put, which would allow him to continue focusing on the publication. 2013 turned out to be a wild year for crypto, as it was the first bull market that truly got the attention of people outside of the cryptosphere. This gave the publication no end of content to write about. And as the popularity of Bitcoin grew, so too did the notoriety of Bitcoin magazine. The prosperity of the outlet was allowing Buterin to start thinking bigger. He now had some funds to play around with, plus he was receiving a lot of exposure due to the success of the magazine. If he couldn't be part of a top existing blockchain in Ripple, then he was going to take matters into his own hands. And this is what led him to start working on Ethereum. In early 2014, Vitalik announced the project on the legendary Bitcoin Talk forum, pretty much cementing the focus of his commitment going forward. And while it would take a while for Ethereum to eventually get off the ground and actually launch as a network, it mattered not, as the die was now cast. Vitalik and Mihai were now in a position where they had to make a choice. Unable to serve two masters, one of these projects had to go. And by the conclusion of 2014, that choice was made. BTC Media acquired Bitcoin Magazine, taking over full responsibility of the publication. But perhaps more importantly, it now allowed both men to focus solely on Ethereum. Back when the magazine started, after producing the first few issues, the duo came to a realization. If they were to continue things, they were going to need some serious help, as this was still just a part-time venture. The duo decided to team up with Orlando-based Coin Publishing LLC to help churn out all those future issues. By the time the sale took place a year and a half later, the team had collectively released 22 issues. This left a brief but very important legacy for the new owners at BTC Media to carry forward. On January 21st, 2015, Bitcoin Magazine let the world know that there was a change in ownership and assured their now sizable fan base that the quality of the publication would only improve from here. The new owners, Callie and Patrick Bailey, would go on to expand the type of content that the magazine would report on. In addition, they were going to be doubling down on the quality of writers and stories that they would be covering. Industry experts would now be contributing. And with the cryptocurrency markets now boasting a lot more attraction than just Bitcoin, the magazine was venturing into the territories of Coindesk and Cointelegraph in that it would now be reporting on everything in the cryptosphere. If you were a fan of Bitcoin Magazine at the time, then this was a bittersweet moment. It was clearly the end of an era with the transition in ownership, but it also meant that a lot more time and money was going to be poured into the publication. And that's exactly what happened, with more stories showing up on the site, slowly but surely expanding its business model to include other areas of interest. Year by year, bull or bear market, new issues were being released covering everything from the ICO boom, exchange hacks, and even regulatory developments. You could probably even get a real sense of the evolution of crypto by virtue of simply following the publication over the years. It truly has become that much of a cultural pillar. The publication has gone on to make history many times since then as well. For example, in 2019, it held its first annual Bitcoin conference, which ran from the 25th of June to the 26th. And a few years later, Bitcoin Magazine held the Bitcoin 2021 conference in Miami, which brought in a head-turning 12,000 attendees. It featured some pretty heavy hitters in its speakers lineup as well, including Congressman Ron Paul, skateboarding savant Tony Hawk, and boxing legend Floyd Mayweather. But there was something even more notable about the event that took place. In a pre-recorded message, the president of El Salvador, Nayib Bukele, announced his plans to accept Bitcoin as legal tender within the Central American nation.
El Salvador President Nayib Bukele says he wants to make Bitcoin legal tender in his country. He made the remarks at the Bitcoin 2021 conference in Wynwood over the weekend.
The bull market of 2021 was truly mind-blowing, and you really had to be there to fully appreciate what I mean. Bitcoin Magazine was there to make some noise as well, announcing in September that they would be expanding their presence by opening up a location in Kiev. But something even bigger happened just a few months later. In December, New England Patriots quarterback Mark Jones teamed up with the outlet to gift Bitcoin and Bitcoin Magazine issues to his entire offensive line. Not only was this a sweet Christmas present, but it also showed that this was a man that knew how to pay his gridiron bodyguards handsomely. As you can see, Bitcoin Magazine has not only stood the test of time, but it's used that time to deeply entrench itself into the collective consciousness of the cryptocurrency industry. It's one of the first real Bitcoin companies to make an undeniable impact on all of those that followed afterwards. If you needed more proof of this, look no further than the Smithsonian. Yeah, I thought that'd catch your attention. They decided to feature a physical copy from an issue released in 2014 in their museum as part of their Value of Money exhibit. It doesn't get any more historically relevant than this, period. So, if I've managed to pique your curiosity, then you can go ahead and check out the publication online right now. And if you're one of those people that just likes the look and feel of having a physical copy in your hands, then I'm about to put a smile on your face. And that's because they still do offer prints that you can subscribe to and have shipped right to your doorstep. And if you want more content, you can always go and check out their YouTube channel, which has some pretty awesome stuff there waiting for you to discover. With a legacy that spans almost all the way back to the origins of Bitcoin itself, this is a company that will be forever linked to the revolution of money via digital currency. And if you ask me, that's a pretty good reputation to hold, considering that this all started out as a side hustle for a few teenagers that were just looking to make a few spare Satoshis. I hope you enjoyed today's stroll down memory lane. Until next time, have fun and enjoy life, my friends. I'll be back soon with another incredible story to tell you.